There's the B. Keep going. That's 11. Okay.
If there were a need to do some repair work, it ought to be done before that Monday.
I've been working with other scientists studying Mars since 1964 when Mariner 4 was launched. And many people did. But now that's all changed.
Roger, 2140, your D1 was... Okay, copy, positive 31.
Planet Mars is over 35 million miles away, even when it's closest to the Earth. It's hardly surprising that the early astronomers with primitive telescopes relied heavily on their imaginations in deciding what it was like. They saw Mars rotate once every 24 hours, like the Earth, and they saw its polar caps grow and shrink. The first hand-drawn maps showed dark areas. Many thought these dark markings were plant life. Other astronomers thought they saw lines connecting certain dark areas. An American named Percival Lowell started a lasting myth when he decided that the lines were actually canals built by intelligent inhabitants. No photographs of Mars have ever shown any such canals. But because of the great distance, even today's best telescopes don't show any real surface details up close. I was part of the team which took the first close-up pictures of Mars.
We want the pictures about 2 or 3 times that big, so we're talking about Mars distance.
Mars gets to be about a couple of meters in diameter then.
They were taken as Mariner 4 flew within 6,200 miles. To our surprise, they showed a cratered surface, much like our moon. Also, the mission discovered that the atmosphere was much, much thinner than we had expected, nearly a vacuum, which dimmed the hopes of finding life there. 2 more spacecraft flew past the planet and photographed 10% of the surface. We discovered that the polar ice caps were thin layers of dry ice, rather than water ice as on Earth. And the rest of the pictures again showed practically nothing but craters. All these craters indicated to me that Mars was probably a dead hunk of rock, like the moon, with little internal activity. But we'd have to see the whole planet to know for sure. That would mean putting a spacecraft in orbit around Mars to take pictures over a period of months.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Mariner 9 was launched and began its 6-month trip to Mars. A few months later, scientists watching Mars with telescopes saw a small dust storm in the southern hemisphere grow and spread across the surface. All markings gradually disappeared under the dust. As the dust storm continued month after month, a lot of us began to get very anxious about whether the cameras would be able to see anything.
Ready to copy?
That's 50.
Roger, predicted downlink 159.3. Actual 159.3.
When Mariner 9 finally reached Mars, signals sent from Earth put it into orbit, the first spacecraft ever to orbit another planet. We turned on its cameras and began receiving the long-awaited first pictures. They showed virtually nothing. Nothing but dust. The only markings in most of the photographs were the dots in the camera grid. We saw only 2 things on the entire surface of Mars: the bright south polar ice cap shining through the dust, and 4 large dark spots near the Martian equator. That spot at the upper left particularly caught our attention. It was in the same location as a large, bright circular feature called Nix Olympica, long seen from the Earth. But if the surface of Mars was covered only with craters, what could be sticking up high enough to show above the dust storm? When the dust finally cleared after nearly 2 agonizing months, what we saw was a real shock. The photos showed a gigantic volcano with a large crater at its top. A volcano would mean that Mars was alive and active inside, and not a cold, dead planet. A close-up photo on the side of Nix Olympica showed what looked like lava flows and tunnels. This one feature, this immense, flat, circular volcanic mountain, made us reconsider everything we'd previously written or said about Mars. It's so immense it boggles the mind. The state of California is almost 300 miles across, yet Nix Olympica is even wider. Close-up photos were taken in orbit after orbit. When they were pieced together into a mosaic map, more surprises emerged. The other 3 spots were also gigantic volcanoes, part of a large volcanic area. Next to it, we found a strange pattern of huge cracks, which because of its shape was nicknamed the chandelier. At one time in Mars history, there must have been violent movement and fracturing to cause this gigantic cracking. Next to the chandelier area, and actually stemming out from it, is another major discovery. Running along the equator of Mars is an immense canyon. Its size is extraordinary. As Mariner 9 passed over Mars, instruments measured the depths of the canyon. It's over 3.5 miles deep in many places. If it were on Earth, it would stretch from Boston to San Francisco. The Grand Canyon in Arizona would be a small crack by comparison. And this on a planet half the size of the Earth. Over 1,000 photographs were pieced together to make a map showing the surface of Mars all the way around the planet. The other half of Mars, beyond the canyon, was mainly cratered, with no volcanoes, no canyons, nothing suggesting internal activity. Little apparently had happened on this side of the planet over billions of years to disturb the ancient landscape. It was in this area that the earlier spacecraft had photographed all the craters, leading us to believe that Mars was like the Moon. We now believe that Mars is just beginning to heat up inside.
Didn't you know the heaviest cratered place on the planet is where we happen to see Mariner 6?
It may look something like the Earth did billions of years ago.
Let's go and look at the next one. Let's see.
Mariner 9 also gave us new information on the polar caps. One of the earlier spacecraft photographed part of the south polar cap when it was almost at its maximum size. By contrast, when Mariner 9 arrived, the cap had shrunk to just this small patch. If the cap was carbon dioxide as we had thought, this small remaining cap would completely disappear during the heat of the summer. So we programmed Mariner 9 to take a series of pictures so we could watch it disappear. To our surprise, the ice didn't disappear, but remained about the same size throughout the summer. We have now theorized that the polar caps are not all dry ice. but that this remaining cap is water ice, which doesn't disappear because it evaporates much more slowly. Probably the most puzzling question concerns water on Mars. Close-up photos of the edges of the canyon show erosion, which some scientists feel looks very much like water erosion on Earth. Water is essential for every form of life as we know it, and if water formed these features, it could be an indication that life too might have formed. Some of the other photos showed snake-like features which look very much like riverbeds. We know for a fact that liquid water cannot exist now on the surface of Mars because the atmosphere there is so nearly a vacuum. But was there ever flowing water here? Were conditions somehow different in the past than they are now? To answer these questions, we would actually have to land on the surface and to test samples directly of the Martian soil. While I studied the thousands of photos from Mariner 9, other scientists were working on the Viking mission. They planned to land two identical spacecraft, Viking 1 and Viking 2, on different parts of the surface. 5 years later, Viking 1 was in orbit around Mars.
GSC indicates that we've initiated the pre-entry pitch over where we'll hold the minus 20-degree angle of attack.
Telecom lead, how's the SNR at the high rate?
SNR is holding very well. It's reading 8
In the atmosphere now.
Altitude is dropped.
Delayed stream. Here converge 2.7 Gs. Good rate damping.
10,900 feet per second.
8.4 Gs. Good roll attitude hold.
Confirm order for 4,800 feet, 177 feet per second.
Confirm roll maneuver.
Parachute separation. 366 feet, 73 feet per second.
ACS is close to vertical.
Nav is green for touchdown.
ACS is green, 1.5 degrees per second max, 0.2 Gs.
8 feet per second.
Touchdown, we have touchdown. Extra zone. Neighborhood zone. Camera 1 zone. We're looking good.
And there's the first piece of information coming in. A
Oh.
little more, and a few rocks.
Oh,
That's beautiful.
that is the footpath, and that's a reflection from the surface. You can see that there's been relatively little disturbance of the surface materials. Meteorology, oh, sensational. A very bright sky, but you can see the horizon. Oh, isn't that lovely? The horizon's sloping down. Looks like it's sloping down to the right. Isn't it? Oh, isn't that? That's
The first
fantastic.
pictures from Viking were amazing.
That's fantastic.
The onboard cameras revealed a gently rolling landscape strewn with boulders. Close-up photos showed a variety of rock textures. The pitted ones are very similar in appearance to lava rocks commonly found on Earth. And the elongated mounds of soil next to many of the rocks probably indicate the direction of the prevailing winds. One of the lander's footpads had even sunk into the soft soil at the edge of a sand dune. The sand dunes showed wind erosion like that found on Earth. The cameras revealed a varied landscape surrounding Viking 1, even including a boulder about 2 meters high. The sky was much brighter than to be expected from such a thin atmosphere. The scientists decided that this must be caused by soil particles remaining in the air long after dust storms. The color pictures were incredible. They showed a vivid orange-red surface suggestive of a high degree of soil oxidation. The thin Martian atmosphere was analyzed. Nitrogen was finally discovered on Mars and found to be much less abundant than on Earth. Argon, on the other hand, is more abundant. These differences from the Earth in atmospheric composition suggest that Mars did have a different, probably denser atmosphere billions of years ago. cameras from the main part of Viking 1, still in orbit, revealed many more strange flood-like features similar to those found by Mariner 9. These winding channels and teardrop islands probably were formed billions of years ago. There is little alternative but to conclude that catastrophic floods did indeed once flow across the surface of Mars. Other photos showed strange patterns of soil flow at the base of eroding cliffs and around the edges of impact craters. These flow-like landforms suggest a soil material unlike that observed on Moon, Mercury, or even on Earth. Viking 1 gave us the first opportunity to look for life on another planet. It had been equipped with a compact laboratory to measure chemical changes that would occur if microscopic forms of life existed in the Martian soil. It would also test for organic material, which always accompanies known life forms. A sample of the Martian soil would be scooped up by a mechanical arm
That's wrapped, huh? It's a strap.
and then placed into the laboratory. All of the complicated digging motions had to be first practiced on a duplicate lander on Earth. Then Viking 1 on Mars was commanded to repeat them. When the laboratory results came in, chemical changes were detected. Had life been found on Mars? More soil samples were taken, but the laboratory did not find any organic material at all. This made the scientists look back at the chemical changes more critically. Without the presence of organic material, it seemed unlikely that the chemical changes observed were really caused by life.
What did you say it was capable of?
An identical lander on Viking 2 would have to be successfully landed to find out if the soil was the same in other parts of Mars.
Minus 104.6 dBm.
That lander was carefully directed to what was thought to be a safe landing site covered with sand dunes.
We should be coming up on terminal send ignition. 5638. Base, bus, land. We've just seen a change in the RRS signal level, the RTS4 signal level. Copy.
Now, there it is. There it is. We have dispelled.
It's confirmed.
Instead of sand dunes, there was a level plain covered by large rocks, hardly the safe landing site that was expected. Equally surprising, the rocks appeared to be of uniform size, not displaying the normal variety of sizes found on Earth. There were also strange small troughs winding in amongst the rocks. Wind erosion and other surface processes seemed to have acted differently on Mars than on Earth. Unlike the Earth, Mars's atmosphere does not protect its surface from deadly ultraviolet radiation emanating from the sun. Perhaps the ultraviolet radiation was making the Martian soil unsuitable for life. So, to see if chemical reactions would be different in an area protected from the sunlight, the mechanical arm was programmed to push a rock over and to scoop the soil from beneath it. but the rock did not budge. Apparently, it was only the top of a much larger rock. Another one was tried. This time it moved. But these samples from beneath the rock, as well as those exposed to the ultraviolet radiation, gave the same results as Viking 1. These results probably never will be fully understood until a sample of the soil of Mars can be tested thoroughly on Earth. My own opinion is that the experiments on Viking have responded entirely to unusual minerals in the soil and have not detected any activity caused by life. To me, it is unlikely that life exists there at all. Mars is truly an alien world. Its geological history is unique. Sometime in the future, man himself will walk on the fine red soil of Mars. But with the successes of the Mariner and Viking missions, we need no longer to rely solely on our imaginations to decide what he will find there.